17 recordings this foreign national who did the bribes has. Somebody better protect that guy and better protect the information, or we won't get that information. Now we have a situation where the Democrat Party's leader, the Attorney General who was appointed by him, another Democrat, with a special counsel who comes out of a Democrat family and is a careerist, makes a determination on who the Republican nominee might be, interferes in the election to try and shackle that nominee against the sitting president for whom the Attorney General works, and turns this country into a laughingstock, and turns American against American. That's the problem. In the meantime, Joe Biden has been accused of bribery by an FBI source that the FBI has used multiple times and have apparently paid him over the course of several years over $100,000. So this person was reliable, they said. Sets up, in another instance, 20 shell corporations to receive millions of dollars, millions, from the communist Chinese and the Romanians and other governments, and is Mr. Big. And is referred to Mr. Big, it turns out, also in this form. So the big guy, or Mr. Big, shows up again. And of course, gets 10%, according to Bob Alinsky, and that's also in an email in the laptop, Hunter Biden's laptop. So all this stuff, there is enough predicates here. They're pouring out of every pore of the Biden crime family. And the idea that there's not a special counsel to investigate this, including the FBI's conduct, is unbelievable. And finally, when the FBI allowed the Republicans on the House Oversight Committee and the House Judiciary Committee to look at this document, it was heavily redacted. And now somebody has told Senator Grassley, you know what's under some of those redactions? What? Allegations that there are 17 tapes, 15 of Hunter Biden, 2 of Joe Biden, in discussions with this person about a bribe involving Burisma and Ukraine. The FBI director blacked that out. It seems to me that's the most relevant information in there. This document's not classified. There's no need to black out anything. Out of all the documents they classified, they didn't classify this one. We, the people, have a right to see this before there's any votes, even one, in the Democrat primaries, Republican primaries, or the general election. We have every right to see this document. What's the national security issue? The national security issue is the guy in the Oval Office, and whether we return him to the Oval Office. How is it that they leak and leak and leak out of the grand jury and so forth against Trump? When it comes to Biden, the Praetorian Guard, they're there, baby. And today's news won't be Joe Biden's on a tape about a bribe. It'll be an arraignment of Donald Trump in Miami. Now you know why they brought these charges on Thursday of last week. Because they knew at some point this tape information would get out. They couldn't keep it secret. How did they know that? Because the whistleblower didn't go away. That former FBI whistleblower, maybe he's with the FBI, whomever it is, that whistleblower knows what's in that document. And obviously he or somebody told Grassley. And Grassley told the American people yesterday, last evening when I was on radio. And I want you to hear it from Senator Grassley himself. Here is Senator Grassley. He goes to the floor of the Senate, and he makes about a 5-minute statement that should have been a headline in the front page, on the cover page of every newspaper in America. Should have been the big story for every one of these news platforms in America, networks, cable, and all the rest. And it was not. Because we don't live in a free country anymore. In many ways, it looks like a totalitarian country. You don't have a free press, you don't have a free country. That's why it's right there in the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment. But we don't have a free press, in the sense of press that really wants to track down these various issues. if it wasn't for Grassley, if it wasn't for Comer, if it wasn't for Jordan, if it wasn't for Kevin McCarthy telling these various Republicans running these committees in the House to go get them, we wouldn't even know this. If we didn't win the Republican election in the House by the thinnest of margins, we wouldn't know most of this. Think about that. Let's listen to Senator Grassley. Go.
Last week, I came here to speak to my colleagues about the Biden administration and the FBI playing games with the American people by hiding the FBI-generated 1023 document from Congress and the American people. Director Wray was going to be held in contempt for refusing to produce the 1023 that I told Chairman Comer about, and I think I had that first conversation with Chairman Comer about 3 weeks ago. Then, instead of contempt, the FBI committed to showing the 1023 and related documents to the whole Congress. By the way, I thank Chairman Comer for his cooperation with me and how he's pursued this issue, because we know a heck of a lot more now than if he hadn't been involved in this whole effort. So the FBI showed, after the FBI committed to showing this document, they showed, but it didn't provide possession of the 1023 to the House Oversight Committee last week. And by the way, 1023 is unclassified. So why shouldn't the entire country know about what's in this 1023? As the public knows, that 1023 involves an alleged bribery scheme between then Vice President Biden, Hunter Biden, and a foreign national. The 1023 produced to the House committees redacted reference that the foreign national who allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden allegedly has audio recordings of his conversation with them.
Stop. Now that should cause everybody's hair to be on fire. You would think the leading media in America, which is the most corrupt, would say we must have those recordings. They would be all over the White House press secretary. They'd be all over Biden as he shuffles around. They'd be all over the Attorney General of the United States. They'd be all over the FBI. You were involved in a cover-up. You still covered up the existence of audio tapes. They apparently are alleged in this document. We want the document, and we want to know about those audio tapes. Nothing. Go ahead.
17 such recordings. According to the 1023, the foreign national possesses 15 audio recordings of phone calls between him and Hunter Biden. According to the 1023, the foreign national possesses 2 audio recordings of phone calls between him and then Vice President Joe Biden.
All right. "17 recordings this foreign national who did the bribes has. Somebody better protect that guy and better protect the information, or we won't get that information, or they'll just write this off. That's the first point. The second point is, whenever tapes are out there, Washington, official Washington, establishment Washington usually gets excited. Wow, there's tapes. Remember what they did with Trump? Oh, there's a recording of Trump with this reporter, I guess, talking about how, war plans with Iran, but he didn't declassify it as president. He can't declassify. Now, that was a direct leak from the prosecutor's office, which means that information shouldn't even be allowed, and somebody needs to be prosecuted for the felony in leaking that grand jury information. Now, that said, that's been discussed for a week. For a week. Now we have audio, potentially, of bribes involving the Biden family, including Joe, the sitting president of the United States. Donald Trump's not a sitting president of the United States, the current president of the United States. And you hear nothing about this except by conservative media platforms and Fox and Newsmax and OAN and so forth. But otherwise, you don't hear a damn thing. Isn't that shocking? Go.
These recordings were allegedly kept as a sort of insurance policy for the foreign national in case that he got into a tight spot. The 1023 also indicates that then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in Burisma employing Hunter Biden.
Got that? Burisma, Hunter Biden. How many times did Joe Biden say, I'm not involved in my son's business activities and I know nothing about them? Now, if Joe Biden was involved in the hiring of his son by Burisma when he was Vice President of the United States, that means he put the shoulder on the government, which was before Zelensky, was a corrupt, Russia-related government. Basically, the guy was installed by Putin. What about that? Does that concern anybody? And then remember the video where Biden says he chased off the prosecutor if they wanted $1 billion in American aid? The prosecutor who was investigating what? Burisma, that hired his son, and may have hired his son at Biden's suggestion. Now, let me tell you a little footnote, but it's not so little, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It's always amazed me how the Democrats in Congress went absolutely nuts over Trump's phone call with Zelensky, who was recently elected, and how they tried to tie Trump suggesting that Joe and Hunter did something inappropriate that the government of Ukraine might want to look into with providing military assistance to Ukraine. Trump had provided military assistance to Ukraine before Zelensky. He was committed to giving some during Zelensky, wanted nothing to do with the other. But the Democrats insisted it did, and they impeached him. Donald Trump was onto something, wasn't he? As I listen to this senator, and he's no fool, he's very careful, and so is his staff. And he's talking about how Biden may have had Burisma hire Hunter Biden, and that he may have been bribed by Burisma, and that the guy has recordings of this. It makes me wonder if the corrupt leadership of the FBI tipped off the Democrats about this, which is why they would shut down Trump as fast as they could when he's poking his nose under the tent about corruption with the Bidens and Ukraine. Do you understand my point, Mr. Producer? Again, it's not a conspiracy theory, but they were so hell-bent on indicting him over this call, which wasn't what they said it was, but in which he did suggest they might want to look at the fact that Hunter Biden was working for Burisma and his possible father's involvement in it, that Trump was probably on to something more than he knew. And they wanted to shut it down.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.